Hi, welcome to Gentle Flow. Today we're going to be starting in a kneeling position if that feels good for you. So what you might want, if it doesn't feel comfortable to just be kneeling as you are, is either a couple of blocks or a couple of cushions and then sort of kneeling over those instead. So it just takes the pressure off the knees. So feel free to grab as many cushions as you want, as many feels good. So those are the main props you're going to need today just for this kneeling pose. So if the cushions don't feel like they're supporting you enough, a really good replacement, if you don't happen to have a yoga bolster, is to shove sort of 2 or 3 pillows inside of one pillowcase, and that'll provide you with something that's maybe a little bit thicker to sit on, and you might find that that's a better support for the body. You can have your feet either tucked or untucked, and if it still doesn't feel good kneeling, feel free to come into this with crossed legs instead if that's better for you. So having a little play around with what you've got at home just to find something comfy. For me, the cushions are a really nice fit. And those will be all the props that you need today. So yeah, either a couple of cushions, or if you happen to have yoga blocks, then a couple of blocks will work really well as well. So coming to start in a kneeling position when you're ready, and allowing the eyes to come to a close. Maybe getting a sensation for drawing up tall through the spine, through the crown of the head. And perhaps one palm rests inside the other, palms facing upwards. It's a really nice position to be in, to feel open to receive. So if that's what you're feeling today, that's a really nice position to have the hands in. And if you want to feel a bit more grounded today, then you can bring the hands palm down onto the thighs or onto the knees. So sometimes these subtle changes in how we have our hands help the body, help the mind to feel a certain way. So thinking about what it is that you need today, maybe everything's felt a bit kind of up in the air and a bit hectic, so maybe feeling more grounded would feel really good. And maybe you're feeling ready to receive, you're feeling like you want a bit of energy, and so having the palms up feels really nice. So going with whatever position feels comfortable for you and whatever you feel you might need. And then starting to notice your breath, however it's coming in and out of the body. What does its passage in and out of the body feel like? Does it feel relaxing to breathe in and out, or does it feel that it's getting stuck anywhere? Taking a few breaths to observe what's going on for you. And then maybe seeing if there's space to start to bring the breath a little bit deeper into those areas that we've talked about before. So the lower ribs expanding to the sides, to the back of the body. And maybe down into the belly, allowing it to gently expand as you inhale. And gently move up and in as you exhale. So becoming aware of all the subtle changes that happen in your body as you're breathing. All of the ways it changes shape to accommodate for taking the breath in, to nourish the body. Maybe allowing the breath to come in through the nose as you inhale, and then out through the mouth as you exhale. And if you want to take a couple of deep sighs out through the mouth to sort of get rid of anything that's feeling stuck or anything heavy today, then feel free to do that, taking a couple of really big, loud, deep sighs out through the mouth. And maybe checking in with how you're feeling today about doing this class, about coming to practice. Maybe excited to learn new things, maybe a bit of wariness about what's coming. Anything that you're feeling is absolutely okay. Taking a few more deep breaths here at the start of class, at the start of your practice, and noticing what's going on for you in your body as you're breathing in and out. And on your next inhale, allowing the eyes to open. Coming into some really nice side stretches. So allowing the right hand to come out towards the ground. If you're on quite a lot of cushions, you might find that you need something for it to rest on, another little cushion perhaps. And slowly leaning over to the right, but keeping that left hip grounded down. So if you can, just moving with the upper body. So this may not be very far, and maybe you just come a short way, and that's absolutely okay. And then option, once you get to a place that feels comfortable, if you'd like to, as you inhale, also lifting the left arm up. And maybe the left arm comes over slightly. So see in here if you could keep the chest nice and open. So if you notice that the chest starts to cave in as the arm comes over, bringing the arm a little higher. It doesn't really matter exactly where the arm is, just getting a sensation of opening up the left side of the body. So it might be that this feels really quite tight for you, or you might feel quite open. Seeing if you can keep the shoulders away from the ears, if they're maybe crunching up, seeing if there's space to draw them away from the ears. Taking a few breaths here. And as you inhale, allowing the left arm to come up and back, and then walking the right arm in. And taking a few circles with the shoulders, so rolling them up to the ears and down the back. And then maybe coming the other way as well, so rolling them forward. And coming over to the other side. So left hand comes out to the side, grounding down through the right hip. And option as you inhale, if it feels good, to lift the right arm. Maybe the right arm stays right up to the sky there, or maybe palm facing down, it starts to come over, bringing the arm a bit closer to the ear, keeping the chest open if you can, grounding down through that right hip. And then you get that lovely stretch in the right side of the body. And seeing if you can breathe a little bit of space into the body in that place. And the fingers can be active here, reaching over to the left side if that feels good. On your next inhale, the right arm comes up and back to center as the left hand walks in. And then bringing the hands onto the thighs, drawing up tall through the spine, out through the crown of the head. And maybe taking a few openings and closes of the jaw. So when the jaw gets really, really tight, which often happens if we're feeling stressed, for all of us, it can really affect how the shoulders are feeling. Everything's very linked between jaws and shoulders, and the jaw gets tight, often the shoulders and the neck get tight as well. So allowing the jaw to open nice and wide and then close a few times. So this is the great thing about not being in a class with other people. It doesn't matter how silly you look with this one. So opening the jaw nice and wide and then closing. And opening the jaw again and closing. And then taking the right ear towards the right shoulder. So really gentle neck opening stretch here. An option to take an open and close with the jaw on this side as well. Inhale, bringing the head back to center. And exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Noticing if there are any subtle differences between how the neck feels from side to side. Perhaps taking that opening with the jaw again if that feels good. And inhale back to center. And when you're ready, removing anything that's in between the legs, we're going to come on to our all fours position. So hands underneath the shoulders and knees underneath the hips. So checking that your wrist creases are facing towards the front of the mat, that the hands are sort of comfortably wide open, gaze is down in between the hands to keep the neck long and drawing the spine long as well. So maybe a little engagement through the belly to allow the spine to be long. And on your next inhale, coming through cat and cow. So inhale, starting by lifting the tailbone and rolling through the spine. Chest comes through the hands, gaze lifts. Exhale into cat. So rounding the tailbone, rounding through the spine, tucking the chin. So taking a few of these at your own pace, getting a feeling of the spine opening nice and slowly. So inhaling, getting a feeling of opening and expanding across the chest, being really mindful on the neck, not to overextend, it just stays slightly forward. And exhale, tucking and rounding through the spine and through the chin. As you inhale, coming back to center. So from here, option to take a couple of little balances if you'd like, or you can stay with your cat-cows if that feels better. So if you'd like to take a little balance, lifting the right arm, and an option here to either bring it to the left shoulder, or if you'd like to, reaching the right arm out in front. So the thumbs to the sky and bringing the arm alongside the ear. If that feels enough wherever you are, so to the shoulder or in front, stay here. And if you'd like to, option to also lift the left leg. So reaching back with the ball of the foot and seeing if you can get the fingertips as far away from the toes as you possibly can. So really actively reaching front to back of the room. And exhale, allowing everything to come down. If it feels good here, you can have a little circle of the hips, maybe allowing the spine to release. And coming on to the other side. So option again to lift left arm to right shoulder, or lift the left arm in front, thumb to the sky. And if you'd like to, you can also lift the right leg. So in this pose, sometimes it can be quite easy to get a feeling of rounding through the spine, through the lower back here. So seeing if you can engage the belly to keep the spine long, and then reaching fingertips to toes for one more breath. And exhale, bringing everything down, taking a couple of hip circles if that feels good. So option to come through one more time with that, whichever variation feels good for you. You can go back into cat and cows, you can stay doing some hip circles. So this is about feeling into what your body needs today. There's no pressure to take the balances if that's not feeling good. And while you are taking the balances, seeing if you can keep the gaze down. If you have a little speck of something on your mat, that can be really helpful for keeping balance. But if you do fall out of the balance, then don't worry about it, because even when you're falling out of a balance or you're wobbling, you're still building strength in those muscles. And so it's a really helpful pose to do, even if you're feeling a little wobbly. So don't feel disheartened if you are wobbling a little bit, and give it a go and see what feels good for you. So coming by lifting the right hand again, so either up to the shoulder or straight ahead, palm, thumb to the sky. And if you'd like to, you can lift both the arm and the leg. So up to you which one lifts first. And then getting a sense of drawing up through the middle of the body to keep the spine long. So trying to avoid any sagging in the lower back. And then reaching the fingertips as far away from the toes as you can. Having the arm come up by the ear. One more breath here. And exhale, bringing everything down, taking a circle with the hips if that feels good. So you'll probably find you feel a little bit more balanced on one side than the other, and that's very, very normal. So if you're wondering why you're wobbling all over the place on one side and you're solid as a rock on the other, don't worry, it just makes you a very normal human being. So yeah, absolutely okay to be a little bit more wobbly on one side than the other. On your next inhale, option to lift that left hand, so either coming up to the shoulder or in front and joining with the right leg if that feels good. Lifting up through the belly, reaching fingertips and toes away, gaze down, keeping the neck long. Taking one more breath here. And exhale, lowering everything down. And taking those hip circles if that feels good. Coming back to center. And we're going to try a new pose today, coming into puppy dog pose. So you can stay as you are if that feels better. You're welcome to bring your cushion down underneath your face if that feels good. It brings the ground a little bit closer. What we're doing is we're walking the hands out in front, keeping the legs and the hips where they are, and allowing the forehead to come down to the ground. So this is where it may feel good to have something underneath the head. Or if it feels okay to come down onto the forehead without anything under the head, then feel free to come down all the way. So once you get here, the arms can relax, and getting a sense of the chest drawing down towards the ground. So really opening up the front of the chest, opening up the shoulders. If this doesn't feel good for any reason, you can come back either into all fours or take a child's pose from here. Taking a couple of breaths, breathing into this pose. And as you come back in, maybe coming up onto forearms, using the hands to walk your way back in, taking care, coming back up into your all fours position and moving any pillows or cushions or blankets out of the way. When you're ready, tucking the toes under, pressing through the hands, coming into your first downward facing dog, lifting the hips high, allowing for a generous bend in the knees to begin with. And focusing first of all on the neck, becoming nice and soft, so allowing Mr. Neck to have a bit of time off in this pose. It's kind of the only part of the body that isn't working in this pose, so feel free to let it have a break here. Grounding down through the fingers, allowing them to spread wide and be as flat to the mat as possible. And then option to either pedal the feet or maybe begin to bring the legs a little straighter. And when you're ready, walking the feet slowly up to meet your hands at the top of the mat. Bringing the hands to your shins and drawing the spine long, gaze down, coming into halfway lift. Exhale, releasing to forward fold. So in forward fold, remembering the hands don't need to come flat to the ground. They can dangle, you can take a ragdoll, or you can bend the knees if you'd like to have the hands on the ground and that feels good. Wherever you are, allowing the spine to round, the gaze between the back legs. Inhale, rolling up really slowly through the spine, head comes up last, arms to the side, up overhead, bringing the palms together, and then bringing the hands in front of the chest. So coming through our sun salutation, our vinyasa flow, inhaling, arms come out to the side, up overhead, palms together. Bringing the palms down in front of the chest as you hinge at the hips, releasing into forward fold. Inhale, bringing the hands to the shins or the thighs, spine comes long, gaze down, halfway lift. Exhale, bending the knees, bringing the hands to the ground and stepping the feet back into plank. Option to bring the knees down at any time, seeing if you can find some engagement through the body to keep the spine long. Taking one breath here, gaze in between the hands, and then lowering the knees down, untucking the toes. And then from here, option to bend the elbows and lower down or come onto the forearms, finding your way down to the ground. Inhale, pressing through the hands, rolling the shoulders away from the ears, and lifting the chest, maybe a baby cobra for this first one. So baby cobra, keeping the chest low, option 2, have a little lift of the fingers from the ground. And exhale, lowering back down. Coming through once more in our baby cobra. Inhale, lifting up. And exhale, lowering down. And then finding your way back up onto your knees. So maybe doing a little press up, or maybe coming onto the elbows or the forearms first. Once you get there, tucking the toes underneath and coming into downward facing dog. So once you get into your downward facing dog, option 2, keep the knees bent. So allowing the spine to open up first before the legs open. Maybe pedaling the feet, so one heel comes down and an exhale, and then swapping on the inhale, bringing the other heel down. Or maybe you're feeling really open in the back of the legs and both legs straighten. On your next inhale, either walking your feet up to meet the hands or stepping in between the hands to the front of the mat. Once you get there, hands to shins or thighs, halfway lift. Exhale into forward fold. Inhale, rolling up through the spine. Arms come out to the side or in front, following with the gaze if you wish as the palms come together and bringing them in front of the heart. So we'll come through one more time, adding in some standing poses this time, and then perhaps bringing it all together at the end with a few new bits. So seeing what it feels like to take the different variations and going with whatever feels good for you. Inhale, arms come out to the side, up overhead, reaching with the fingertips. Palms together, hinging at the hips. Forward fold. Inhale, bringing the hands to the shins, the gaze comes long. Exhale, bending the knees, hands to the ground, stepping back into plank. Taking a breath here if that feels good, or bringing the knees down. And when you're ready, allowing the knees to come down, untucking the toes, finding your way down to the ground in whatever way feels good. On your next inhale, peeling up from the breastbone, either baby cobra as we did before, or pressing into the hands, keeping the shoulders away from the ears, coming into cobra. Exhale, lowering all the way back down. And then finding your way back onto your knees, maybe a little press up. And tucking the toes under when you get there, coming into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, stepping the right foot forward in between the hands. So it may be a couple of little steps. You may use your hand to get it there, or maybe the right foot steps all the way. And once you get there, bringing the left foot flat to the ground. So providing a nice stable base, the feet can be as wide apart as feels comfortable. On your inhale, rising up into what's called warrior two. So bringing the left arm up and overhead, reaching to the back of the mat. And the right arm reaches to the front. So in warrior two, the hips are facing the side of the mat as opposed to the front. So seeing if you can get your hips to face the side. And then reaching the front and the back fingers as far away from each other as you can. Bending into that front knee. So it might be that if you've kind of come up in quite a short stance, that maybe that feels okay. It may be that you feel better in a longer one. So having a little play around here, seeing what feels good for you. So hips to the side, back foot is flat, bending into that front knee, front toes are forwards. And then arms reaching to the front and the back of the mat. And taking a breath here, allowing the shoulders to come down away from the ears. And on your exhale, windmill the hands if that feels good, or bringing them either side of the feet. So if you're windmilling, you bring the left arm up and overhead, coming onto the back toes of the left foot, and then hands come down to the ground. From here, stepping back into your plank pose. And lowering the knees down. Untucking the toes, bending the arms, or coming down to forearms, finding your way down to the ground. On your inhale, peeling up, coming into baby cobra or maybe cobra. Exhale, lowering back down. And then finding a way back up onto your knees, maybe a little press up. And when you get there, tucking the toes underneath, lifting the hips, coming into downward facing dog, allowing the head and the neck to be heavy, to be soft. On your next inhale, the left foot comes forward in between the hands. So again, either walking the foot forward, using your hand, or maybe there's space to step the foot forward all the way. So no worries if you need to use the hand here, or if it feels a little difficult to get the foot forward, just take your time getting it to the front. That's no problem. And then bringing the back foot flat, keeping a bend in that front knee as you rise up into Warrior Two. So this time the right arm comes up, reaching to the back of the mat, and the left arm reaches to the front. Checking you're still bending into that front knee. If you notice the front knee is kind of moving in a little bit, seeing if you can get it almost to point towards the little toe of the front foot. Hips facing towards the side of the mat, shoulders over the hips. So instead of, if you're leaning forward, seeing if you can get a feeling of being in the middle somewhere. And then checking in that the shoulders are down. So perhaps turning the palms up to the sky, allowing the shoulders to really relax. And then just moving the wrists so that the palms face down. Coming into Warrior Two on this side. So you can have as wide or as short a stance as you want. It doesn't need to be as wide as mine. You can absolutely have the foot further in. That's completely okay. So whatever feels good here. And the feet can be as wide on the mat as feels good as well. Taking one more breath here. Actively reaching the fingers away from each other. And then as you exhale, bringing the right arm over the head down to the ground, spinning onto the back toe and coming back into plank. So if you want to skip plank, you can come back into child's pose here. If you like to come through your vinyasa, then lowering the knees, untucking the toes, bending the elbows or coming down to forearms, finding your way down to the ground. On your inhale, peeling up into baby cobra or into cobra. Exhale, lowering back down. And then coming through your little press up or maybe onto forearms as you come back up onto your knees. Once you get there, option to either take downward facing dog or to rest in child's pose for a couple of breaths. So I leave that with you to decide what feels best for you. We'll take a couple of breaths in whichever one you've chosen. If you're in downward facing dog, allowing the knees to come down to the ground and separating the knees apart, bringing the big toes together, taking 2 breaths in child's pose. So bringing the forehead down to the ground. On your next inhale, coming back up into an all-fours position, bringing the knees underneath the hips, tucking the toes, everybody coming into downward facing dog. Taking 1 breath here. And then walking or stepping the feet forwards in between the hands at the top of the mat. Hands come to shins or thighs, halfway lift. Exhale, releasing to forward fold. And inhale, rolling up through the spine, arms come out to the side or in front, up overhead, reaching tall. Palms come together in front of the heart. So we'll come through that new sequence one more time. And as with before, feel free to take the child's pose, skip any planks or whatever you might need. So no pressure to do everything or even anything, taking what feels good for you today. Inhale, arms come up to the side, up overhead, reaching tall. Exhale, hinging at the hips. down to forward fold. Inhale, bringing the hands to the shins or thighs to halfway lift. Exhale, bending the knees, hands to the ground, stepping back into plank. Lowering the knees down in plank and untucking the toes, finding your way down. So if this isn't feeling good here, you can stay in all fours for a moment and then join in downward facing dog. So whatever variation you'd like to take. On your inhale, coming into either baby cobra or into cobra. Exhale, lowering down. Finding your way back onto your knees, either pressing through your hands or coming up onto elbows into all fours. Tucking the toes and finding your way into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, right foot comes forward in between your hands. So taking your time to bring the right foot forward in whatever way feels good for you. Allowing the left foot to come flat to the ground, bending into the right knee. Inhale, rising up, left arm comes up and overhead, reaching to the back of the mat. And right hand reaching to the front as you bend into that front knee. On your inhale, turning the front palm to face the ceiling. Bringing the back palm gently against the back thigh. And then reaching up towards the sky with the right fingertips. So this is called reverse warrior. As you exhale, coming back to center. And then bending the right elbow, bringing it onto the right knee. And reaching either up with the left hand if that feels good. Or if there's space, maybe reaching over if the chest can still stay open. So if it feels that the chest is closing in, then staying with reaching up. Coming to extended side angle. And inhale, coming back up to center. So when we put the reverse warrior and the extended side angle together, it's called dancing warrior, which is really quite nice. So option to come through that one more time through your dancing warrior. So turning the front palm up, back palm to thigh, inhale, reaching up, and then exhale, bending the elbow, and left arm comes up to the ceiling or overhead. Inhale, rising back up. As you exhale, left arm comes over to the front, spinning onto the back toes. And from here, option to either step back into plank, or if it feels better, to come into either all fours or into child's pose. So I leave that with you, bringing the knees down and lowering down if you're coming through vinyasa for the last time. Untucking the toes. Inhale, peeling up, maybe baby cobra or cobra. Exhale, lowering down to the ground. On your inhale, option to take the mini push-up or coming up onto forearms. And if you're coming through your vinyasa and you'd like to take a downward facing dog, lifting the hips, coming into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, the left foot comes forward in between your hands. So walking it slowly or maybe stepping it forward, taking your time to get it there. Grounding the back foot down, bringing it flat to the mat. Keeping it bent through that front knee. As you inhale, rising up, right arm comes over, reaching to the back of the mat. Left arm reaches to the front. Checking you've still got the bend in the front knee. An option to come through dancing warrior on this side. So as you inhale, turning the front palm up, And bringing the right palm to the back thigh, reaching up with the front arm to the sky. As you exhale, coming back to center. Bending through the front elbow, bringing it onto the front thigh. And then palm to the sky on the back arm. Maybe it reaches up. Or if there's space, if it feels okay, you can reach over the top. So only reaching over the top if it feels really nice and open. If your shoulders are feeling tight, feel free to stay reaching up to the sky. On your next inhale, coming back up to center. So you can use your hand on your thigh to help you come back up. An option to stay here or to come through once more. If you're coming through again, inhale, palm faces up, right palm to thigh, and reaching up to the sky. So not pressing in very hard at all on this back thigh, being able to lift it if you needed to. As you exhale, bending the elbow, bringing it onto the knee, and the right arm rises up, reaching either to the sky or overhead, fingertips reaching to the front of the mat. So if you're reaching overhead, the palm is facing down. Inhale, finding your way back up into your warrior two. And exhale, right hand comes over the head, down to the ground, spinning onto the back toes. Option to come down through plank here, or to come into child's pose. Bringing the knees down, untucking the toes, lowering down. Once you get there, inhale, peeling up, either baby cobra, or you can skip cobra altogether if that feels better. Exhale, finding your way back down. And then inhale, either a mini push-up, or coming up onto the elbows or the forearms. Taking the final downward facing dog of today. So tucking the toes under, lifting the hips. One breath in downward facing dog. And then lowering the knees down and bringing the feet out to the side. Coming to sit down. You'll be glad to know no more vinyasas, no more sun salutations. So well done for however many you took. It can feel really intense on the arms and shoulders, starting to do lots of those. So quite a lot of new things today. So yeah, whichever variations you took, that's fantastic. Bringing both feet here out in front. So if you're feeling a rounding through the spine, if it's kind of hard to sit in this position, popping a little cushion underneath the hips, that will help this to feel a bit more comfortable. And then drawing the right knee in. An option to either stay here or to take a little twist. So if you're taking a little twist, opening to the right hand side, so right hand comes behind the body, and then either holding on to the knee with the left hand, or if it feels good, you can bend the elbow, bringing it outside of the right knee, palm is up. So taking a nice little opening twist. And inhale, coming back to center, allowing the right leg to come down to the ground. So same on the other side, left foot draws in, bending the knee. And an option to take a twist here, holding on to the left leg with the right hand. Left hand comes behind the body. And then either staying holding on to the left leg, or if you'd like to, you can bend the right arm, elbow comes outside of the left knee, and palm facing out. On your next exhale, finding your way back into the centre. Bringing the left foot out, both hands behind the body, a little shake of the legs. And then separating the feet, coming into a slightly wider seated pose. So it doesn't need to be super wide, the feet can still be fairly close together if that feels better. And from here there are a few options. So again, you might want to have something underneath the hips just to help the spine come a bit long. You can also take a little bend in the knees and pop cushions underneath the knees if that feels better, if the backs of your legs are very tight. Or you can even bring the hands behind the body, using the hands to allow you to get some length through the spine. If you're feeling very comfortable in this seated position, feel free to stay here if you're feeling that the spine can be long, if it feels good to be in this pose. You're welcome to bring the hands in front if you're feeling that you want a little bit more opening, and begin to have a bit of a forward bend. So only taking the forward bend if that feels really good for your body. There's no pressure at all. Seeing if you can keep the spine long. So a feeling of, if you are coming forward, of leading with the chest rather than with the head. So when we lead with the head, we tend to just bring the forehead down and round the spine. So seeing about leading with the chest, keeping the spine long. Maybe you come forwards a little bit. Maybe it feels okay to come down to elbows. Or if you're feeling particularly open, perhaps bringing the forehead down to the ground. But, you know, for most of us, bringing the hands in front, sitting up tall, or the hands behind will feel like a really nice opening in the inner thighs. So finding a little bit of space in the body, whichever position feels good for you. And maybe closing the eyes if that feels good. Sometimes when the eyes are closed, it's easier for the body to relax into any areas that might feel a little tight. So as with always here, if you're feeling uncomfortable or if there's any pain, definitely back out a little bit. So this is just taking it to where you begin to feel a bit of opening, maybe a little bit of a stretch, but nothing that feels too intense. So working with what feels good for your body. Absolutely okay to stay really upright or bring the hands behind for this one. Taking one last breath here. And on your inhale, opening the eyes if they close, bringing a hand under each knee, drawing the feet into centre, hands come behind the body, and then taking a little windscreen wipe with the legs. And scooting up to about halfway up your mat, lowering down onto your back. So maybe you want to bring elbows down to come down, maybe hands behind the thighs. Maybe you want to have a bit of ab work, arms out in front, lower down. So whatever feels good for you, coming down to the mat here. And keeping the knees bent. Drawing both knees into the chest when you get there, wrapping your hands around the shins. Taking a little rock from side to side. And then interlacing the fingers just around the right shin, allowing the left leg to come out to the ground to lower down. Holding onto the right leg with your left hand as your right arm opens up to the side. So palm up, out to the side with the right hand and the right arm. Gazing over the right arm. And as you exhale, drawing the right leg across the body to the left-hand side. So coming into a little spinal twist. You're welcome to roll up onto that left hip if that feels good. And maybe closing the eyes here. Seeing what it feels like to be in this twist. Allowing the chest and shoulders to be open, maybe feeling a bit of a opening or a stretch in the right hip. Twists are really, really good, nourishing poses for the spine, really good for spinal health. So taking a couple more breaths here, breathing into this pose, allowing it to nourish and look after the body. On your next inhale, drawing gaze up to center, right hand comes down, and then coming on to your back, drawing both knees into the chest again, and taking that little rock side to side again. And then interlacing the fingers around the left shin, allowing the right leg to come out straight to the ground. Holding on to the left leg with the right hand, left arm comes out to the side, palm to the sky, gazing over the right arm towards the right fingertips. And as you exhale, drawing the left leg across the body to the right, you can come up onto the right hip if you want to create a bit more space. Coming into your spinal twist on this side. So seeing if maybe this feels any different. Exploring the feeling of openness on this side of the body. Giving your spine all the benefits of these gentle opening twists, allowing movement in the joints, and also helping with digestion in the body. Taking one more breath here. And then bringing the gaze back to center, left arm in, and carefully rolling over onto your back, bringing both knees into the chest, taking one last rock from side to side. And from here, coming into your Shavasana, so the wonderful, glorious resting pose at the end of yoga. So maybe you keep feet to the floor, allowing the knees to knot together. Maybe you open up completely, allowing the legs to come out to the ground, the palms to open. Whatever position feels good for you. You can be on your side, on your front, any position that feels really cozy. Feel free to grab cushions or blankets, whatever you need. When you're ready, taking a really deep inhale through the nose, filling the body, and loud exhale through the mouth. taking a moment to maybe thank your body for whatever it's done today, whichever variations it took. There's a lot of new stuff in this class, so feeling really good about whichever bits you did. And if you chose to skip certain bits or to modify or adapt, taking different options, then that's really great. That is what yoga is all about. So please note that you were able to choose the practice that was best for your body, and that is the biggest and hardest thing to learn in yoga sometimes, is actually not always doing everything. So well done if you took variations, if you took different options today. Noticing maybe how your body's feeling, the difference between the beginning of your class and the end of class. What's going on in your body? Is it feeling more open? Is it feeling tired? Is it feeling energized? Noticing whatever sensations are going on for you and feeling into those for a couple of breaths. And then maybe letting your breath slowly deepen and getting a sense of the body becoming heavy against the mat. It doesn't need to be working anymore. It's done everything it needed to do. Taking a few breaths here in stillness. How can your body feel more open, more spacious, more comfortable? If you do have a few more minutes that you can spend here today, then absolutely feel free to do so, to continue allowing the body some rest. Whenever it is that you decide to move on, then you're gently rolling over onto one side before coming up to seated. So taking your time whenever it is that you decide to get up. I hope you've enjoyed practice today, maybe learning and experiencing some new poses. I look forward to practicing with you again soon and seeing you in other classes. Namaste.